whispers in the dark. The once bustling Tempest Keep was plunged into chaos. Whispers and accusations swirled through the narrow streets like a relentless storm. The discovery of the boy's lifeless body had sent shockwaves through the community, shattering the fragile peace that had held for so long. Torches flickered as the townsfolk gathered in the central square, their faces etched with fear and suspicion. Kieran's name was on everyone's lips, the boy who had been seen as a promising guardian, now branded a murderer. The council hastily convened, their voices rising in heated debate over what course of action to take. "He must be brought to justice," one elder declared, his voice firm with conviction. "We cannot let such a crime go unpunished." Others were more hesitant, remembering Kieran's years of service and the loyalty he had once inspired. Yet, the evidence seemed irrefutable, and the weight of the boy's death hung heavily over them all. With a heavy heart, the council decreed that Kieran was to be hunted and captured. Kieran fled the keep as dusk fell, slipping into a small, outlying town. He moved swiftly and quietly through the narrow alleys, keeping his face hidden beneath a hood. The cover of nightfall offered some protection, but he knew he had to keep moving. The forest was his only chance, even though it was a place the townspeople dared not go into at night. After navigating the labyrinthine streets and evading the few onlookers, Kieran reached the edge of the town. The dense forest loomed ahead, its tall trees casting long shadows under the moonlight. The thick foliage provided cover, and he slipped into the darkness, leaving the town behind. Nightfall enveloped the forest in an almost tangible darkness, the only light coming from the faint glow of bioluminescent plants scattered amongst the underbrush. Kieran pressed on, unaware that his path was leading him to the far edges of a place where magic thrived and secrets lay hidden. His thoughts were a maelstrom of regret and resolve. He hadn't meant for things to spiral out of control. It had been an accident, a tragic fall during a struggle, but only Kieran knew the truth. Now he was a fugitive, his name tainted by a crime he couldn't clearly prove he didn't commit. As he stumbled upon a clearing, the air seemed to hum with a different kind of energy, the presence of an ancient magic subtly making itself known. Unbeknownst to Kieran, he had crossed into a land where his destiny would become intertwined with forces beyond his understanding. The echoes of his past would soon collide with the shadows of this enchanted realm, setting the stage for a journey that would test the very fabric of his being.
The torch's glow of Tempest Keep faded behind me, replaced by the dim light of the small outlying town. Faces turned away as I slipped through narrow alleys, my hood pulled low to conceal my identity. Every shadow felt like a threat, every whisper a potential alarm. My pulse raced, a constant reminder of the boy's accidental fall, a burden I carried alone. I could feel the village's tension, a palpable fear that clung to the air. Lanterns flickered, casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to reach for me. I moved like a ghost, unseen and unheard, my mind a whirlpool of regret and determination. As I neared the edge of the village, a hooded figure stepped out from the shadows, their eyes a mix of curiosity and caution. "You're heading into the woods," they whispered, their voice barely more than a breath. "They say no one should enter after dark. The forest, it changes at night. Unseen things roam the shadows." Ignoring the warning, I pressed on. The dense forest loomed ahead, a wall of darkness that promised both concealment and danger. The moonlight cast long shadows among the trees, and I slipped into their embrace, leaving the village behind. The air grew colder, and the night wrapped around me like a shroud. Faint glows from the forest's eerie plants lit my path, casting an otherworldly light. Each snap of a twig underfoot echoed through the oppressive silence, setting my nerves on edge. Deeper into the forest, the world felt different. Whispers seemed to follow me, carried by the wind through the ancient trees. My mind was a storm of regret and resolve. I replayed the struggle with the boy, the sickening sound of his head striking the stone over and over. It had been an accident, a tragic, unintentional act, but I was now branded a killer. Strange rustlings and distant cries pierced the night, making it clear that I was not alone. As I ventured deeper into the darkness, the underbrush around me seemed to move with a life of its own. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes to my left made my heart skip a beat. I froze, straining to see through the gloom. The rustling grew louder, and I crouched low, my hand instinctively reaching for the dagger at my waist. The leaves parted, and a pair of glowing eyes emerged, followed by a low, guttural growl. It was a wolf, its fur bristling as it stepped into the faint light. For a moment, we stared at each other, both of us caught in a moment of shared tension. The wolf snarled, baring its teeth, and I tightened my grip on the dagger, ready for a fight. But then, another rustle came from the opposite side. More eyes appeared, and I realized I was surrounded. My heart pounded in my chest as I slowly backed away, trying to find an escape route. Just as the wolves closed in, a sudden, sharp howl echoed through the forest, startling them. The pack hesitated, then retreated into the shadows, their glowing eyes disappearing one by one. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. Then I heard it, a scream piercing the night and sending chills down my spine. It was the scream of a young woman, and it came from deeper within the forest. Without thinking, I ran towards the sound, my senses heightened by the lingering fear. I burst into a clearing and saw her, a young woman surrounded by the same pack of wolves that had cornered me. Her back was against a tree, its bark etched with glowing, intricate markings unlike anything I had ever seen before. The symbols pulsed with a strange, ancient magic, casting an eerie light that illuminated her terrified face. With a shout, I lunged at the nearest wolf, my dagger flashing in the moonlight. The blade found its mark, and the wolf yelped, retreating. The rest of the pack turned their attention to me, but I stood my ground, ready to fight. The woman took the opportunity to scramble up the tree, finding temporary safety among the branches. I continued to fend off the wolves, my movements fueled by a mix of fear and determination. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the pack retreated, melting into the shadows once more. Panting and bloodied, I looked up at the woman. Her eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of fear and gratitude. As she descended from the tree, the glowing markings illuminated her face, revealing her delicate features and pointed ears. I extended a hand to help her down, my mind reeling with the realization. You're an elf?" I stammered, astonished. She nodded, her eyes locking onto mine with a resolute intensity.
"Yes. And you've just saved my life.